data. Yes. So once you have your data, you turn that into a graph. And after that, what do you do? Yes. What do you do after that? You have your data, you create your graphs, you tell you compare your results, yeah, and you come up with your conclusion. And then you tell other people your results. So publication or you just share. Awesome. Okay, so that means that our overview, the class may take less time because it looks like a lot of you remember some of this information. Let me open this. So we're going to spend some time. We're going to do an overview and then we're going to move on to the art. In there, you're going to have some activities you have to do. Um, and I'm going to share my screen now. Okay, do you all see my screen? Let me go to here. Okay. Okay, let's see. Who can tell me what do you think science is? What's the definition for science? And what's the goal of science? What's the goal of science and what is science? Biology is the study of life, but science in general. Science in general. No, nobody. Okay. Um, yes. Alexi. Alexi. Yes. Okay. So the goal of science, remember, is always to investigate. And we're trying to explain the natural world. When we say natural world, some people think it's just like biology stuff or plants and animals, but that also includes chemistry because that is the natural world. It also includes space science because that is the natural world. Um, and the goal is not to accumulate more information or produce more information, is to understand phenomena. So scientists, what they do is basically collect, organize information, and they look at patterns and look for connections between those events, and then they come up with a conclusion. So what they propose are explanations that you can test by running an experiment. And that's what you will be doing for your mini project. You're going to try to propose an explanation for that can be tested through your experimental design. And it's organized. That's why you're doing a series of steps for your procedure. It's an organized way of testing it, and you're going to use that evidence to learn about the world. So whatever you test, as long as is the natural world, your experiment will be good. And we start with observation. You said that. So this is when we process. It's a process of gathering information about what we see, those events we see. And you all said that we use data for that. And that is basically the information gathered from making observations. And we usually put that in tables because we try to make this very organized. So when you share this with people, they can understand. And I know a lot of people in science are really not organized. I work with a lot of people who, yeah, you can, okay. Hypothesis. What's a hypothesis? And what's the difference between a hypothesis and an observation? What's a hypothesis?
A hypothesis is basically like a prediction of your experiment. So before you experiment, you make a hypothesis of what you think the results are and what the outcome is going to be. And the so that's a hypothesis. And what was the other
Mhm.
question? The other word, scientific word?
Observation.
An observation. So an observation will be observed. Now, a hypothesis is more like something you're going to put on a notebook. It's going to be um, the official hypothesis. You're going to write what you think is going to happen, but basically, a hypothesis is a prediction and a prediction full of observations. So that's what it is. And yeah, so
Yeah, and exactly. And the hypothesis is something you can test. Your observation is, for example, you can say this bird has blue feathers. So it's an observation. But hypothesis, also the way you write it, um, as I was saying, is the explanation for what you see, what you observe, and we have to make it in a way that is testable, and that's what you're going to be doing when you write your hypothesis. You should use the format. If I do this, so the independent variable, then this will happen. That's the dependent variable, so the effect, because, and you explain why, because it's science, so you need to tell me a reason why you think that's going to happen. Some people just say, if I do this, then this will happen, with no explanation, and sometimes are things that don't make any sense. So that's why you need to explain why you think that's going to happen. And MJ mentioned research as part of the process, and that's why you do some research. So what you're saying makes sense, and you have a scientific backup about what you're saying. You think is going to happen. So for the scientific method, you all share the steps. So this is a way to that everybody in the science field will use to test things. For example, pseudoscience. Pseudoscience, they don't use the scientific method. They don't follow any of these steps. They don't repeat experiments. They don't. It's based on beliefs. They don't have scientific data. Maybe it's just one person doing the experiment, nobody else. There's no peer review. But in the science field, we this is like our the steps we follow. So we have the observation number one. You said that we ask something based on what we see. Then we form our hypotheses. Then we design a control experiment. Record and analyze your results. You draw conclusions based on what you see, and then you publish. Okay, so for example, a question can be how much water can root hair absorb? And what does a plant stem bend toward the light? And I'm going to ask you to add in the chat a good question based on an observation. So look around where you are right now, make an observation, and come up with a question based on that observation. And stop sharing here. In the chat, you're going to write a question based on an observation. For example, if I look through the window here and I say, I notice that the soil is wet, even though it was not raining, I can ask how much retention does the soil have in this area, like in my on my backyard. That's a question based on an observation. So what would be a good question based on an observation that you're making right now? Gonna let you think. Okay, so if you're unsure, put type in the comments an observation, and then turn that into a good scientific question. Can I set the grass outside my window is yellowish green? even though it's perfect weather to grow green. Okay, so how can you turn that into a scientific question? And scientific questions usually start with why, um, what causes, how does this. So instead of making a descriptive question, which is what color is the grass, you're going to create a scientific question, which starts with how, why, and what causes. They will be in the modules, Connor. Okay, Alexi, give me one observation. There will be there, Connor. Your window's foggy. Yes. Now, how can you turn this into a scientific question? Using the words how, what causes, or why. Why is the grass yellow even with the essential rain, wind, and sunshine? Exactly. So that's a good scientific question. How is bamboo strong enough to penetrate through the human body? That's a good scientific question too. Um, okay, good. Now we're gonna move on to variables before we go into VR. And I know some people were confused yesterday and on Monday. So the factors that can be changed are always called variables. So in your assignment, if I say variables, that's what I'm talking about. You're gonna have independent, dependent variables, and control variables. Control means those that remain the same throughout the entire experiment. For example, if you're testing if a plant grows faster when you water it with orange juice or water or let me think what else or what or vitamin water, the amount of sunlight should be the same. The type of plant you're growing should be the same. The amount of soil you have and the type of soil you have for all of your plants should be the same. Um, and the amount of liquid they receive should be the same. Those are all control variables because you are controlling all of those. They should remain the same because in a good experiment, only one variable can change at a time. So what you're changing in this case is only the type of liquid you're adding to the plant, but you're not changing anything else. You're not changing the amount of sunlight. You're not changing the type of soil. You're not changing the type of plant. So only one variable should change, okay? And we say control experiment because you control all of them, even the one you're changing. Then you have a control and experimental group, right? The control is the one you use to compare. So that one doesn't receive the treatment. You leave it the same. And the experimental group is where you add the different types of liquids and you test it. And you're going to see that in your packet too. You're going to have to describe what your control group is and what your experimental group is. Okay. So in this case, we're going to do an example here, and I'm going to ask you to type in the comments what you like your answers. In order to test the effectiveness of a new vaccine, 50 volunteers are selected and divided into two groups, so 25 and 25. One group will be the control group, and the other one will be the experimental group. Both groups are given a pill to take that is identical in size, shape, and texture. Tell me what would be the control group in this case. Both groups are given a pill to take that is identical in size, shape, color, and texture. I'm going to say one pill has the medicine in it, the other one doesn't. So what would be the control group in this case? Be the control group. We have two groups, 25 and 25 volunteers. All of them receive the same pill with the same size, shape, color, texture, but one One group will receive the medicine in it, the other one has the pill, but there's nothing in it. So which one will be the control group? Okay, I'm gonna assume you are trying to understand this, so I'm gonna move on and explain it. So even though the volunteers are given identical looking pills, the control group will not actually receive the vaccine or the medicine. So that's what we call a placebo. I don't know if you've heard about that, but it's basically a pill that doesn't contain anything. But they give it to people because that's a blind study. That's a double blind study. So you don't tell the person that there's nothing in there, because sometimes people assume that because there's medicine in it, they're gonna start feeling better already. So, and their brain's very powerful. So they just give it to them and see if they have symptoms. The experimental group in this case will be, what will be the experimental group? Let's see. The one that has the vaccine in it or the one that doesn't have the vaccine in it? I'll look at the chat here. Control, oh, Alexi, yeah. Control received the fake pill. Yeah, so they don't have real pills. Yeah. What will be the experimental group then? Exactly. Exactly, Leah. It tricks the volunteer psychologically, so it helps scientists record accurate data. The experimental group will receive the real pill in order to test the effectiveness of the vaccine. Yes. Good. Awesome. Okay. The ones that receive the vaccine. What variables are kept constant here? Remember, I mean, you have the statement here, the example. What variables remain constant? What variables remain constant? Take it some time to look at this. Okay, and we have here, let me open the chat. Texture, yes. What else? Shape, color, all of those things remain the same for both groups. Um, good. What variable is being changed? The medicine, yes, or the vaccine. So what the pill contains. What is in this case, what's the independent variable and what's the dependent variable? That's the last thing we're going to do. What's the independent variable? What's the dependent variable here? Dependent variable. Remember, the dependent variable is the one that's being affected, like the outcome. The independent is the one that the scientist is changing. The independent is the size. You sure? The medicine. The independent is the medicine. Independent. So the independent is the medicine, whether it has the vaccine or medicine in it or not. The dependent, what's the outcome then? What will be the outcome? So they're changing, putting in the pill the vaccine, or they're not. That's the dependent. Independent variable is the medicine, and the dependent are the volunteers. And the dependent is the symptoms of the volunteers. Okay. Dependent is if the pill works. The dependent is whether the pill has the vaccine or not, or the treatment or not. and the dependent will be the outcome, so the symptoms of these people. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. Now, okay, so contains the chemicals. Okay. So now we're going to go to VR, and you're gonna see a. We're gonna do 2 activities today. So you don't have to work in pairs for this one. You totally can. We're going to do, let's do dependent and independent variables first. So you're going to have, for this one, you're going to have 5 different scenarios. You're going to find them in different places. You're going to go there with we need at least 2 people per scenario. And there you're going to tell me what's the independent, dependent, and constants for every single one of them. Okay. Once we're all done, we're going to go to each station and you're going to explain to the whole group the scenario and your dependent, independent variables and the controls. Okay. So I'll see you there. We are. Okay. And if you need the code, okay, the code here. My engage.
Excuse me. What is the session code?
Give me one moment. I'm gonna put it in the chat right now.
Thank you.
Yep, right there. See you there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.